Hollywood, take note. Is this how you write a female powerhouse?
After 3 seasons of this show, is this the first time we see a totally different side of Mickey Holler?
Red and Red Real Reviews passes the bar with season 4 of Lincoln Lawyer on Netflix.
I knew within the first 5 minutes I was going to hate it, but then it was so bad. Ugh.
Nobody wants this. Like,
Literally
figure out,
nobody
hold on,
wants this.
internet's gonna get mad at me for this one. There's no fat elf, you know?
Duty, which I can't say without laughing. Duty, like I'm English.
John B and Sarah are, I mean, I don't want to sound like a loser for saying this, but they're adorable. I'll admit it. Welcome back. And for the second time, we turn the clocks back to revisit our very first review. Death, taxes, and Red Real Reviews reviewing The Lincoln Lawyer. And Netflix goes and does Netflix things by dropping the entire season all at once. And as we get into it, let us know what you think of the podcast or potential show we should have on our radar. Email us redandredrealreviews@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram at Red and Red Real Reviews. That is the letter N and real spelled with two E's. So where we left off, and thank goodness that shows make those built-in recaps from the previous season. Because especially in our situation where we watch so much in between, everything gets a little fuzzy. But Mickey Haller is in a bit of hot water where we last remembered him.
Yeah, and I believe there was a little bit of confusion on our part. If you go back and revisit the review that we did for the previous season, we were a little bit confused of whose body was in the trunk. I think
Yeah.
I had to look up a recap to be like, oh, it's Sam Scales, because I was a little bit confused as to who they were trying to say that he killed, because it was one of those moments that hit in the last few seconds or so in the finale of last season. So I remember having to look into that and confirm that. But picking it up from this season, we were kind of like thrown right into it again. And I think it's been maybe a year and change. So like it hasn't been a long time, but to your point, we've watched a hell of a lot of stuff in between. So your mind does get a little rusty. You're like, okay, where are we at and where are the characters at? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, I felt like it was an November release, maybe late October. So I feel like it was a little over a year.
It might have been a fall. Yeah, it might have been a fall release. I remember like being comfy and cozy and curling up and watching it.
Yeah. Down here in the South, that's still pretty moderate temperatures.
Yeah, true. I guess for you guys.
Yeah. So Mickey's in hot water. His old client, this notorious informant and con man Sam Scales is in the trunk, and this police officer that has an air of he's got an axe to grind, or he's got maybe a little corrupt. He pulls Mickey over and is very aggressive in terms of locating this body in the trunk.
Yeah, and I think we're kind of left wondering why. What does this cop have against him? Does this cop work for someone else
Yeah.
besides the force? Is he pushing the agenda of someone else who's really trying to catch Mickey in the act, or blackmail him, or
Mhm.
frame him rather? So yeah, you're just kind of wondering what axe to grind is there with this cop, and what's the situation, and what's going to happen to Mickey. I mean, the show is called Lincoln Lawyer, so like it's not like he just goes to prison and can't be a lawyer anymore, right? Like that's what you're
Yeah.
thinking.
And this is one of those shows that we do have to be very careful with how we speak because one of
Mhm.
the nature of it being a legal show and doubling down on the fact that Mickey has to figure out who set him up with the bot with Sam's body in the trunk. We do have to be very, very careful of spoilers for this review.
Yeah, especially because we had the whole season. So
Hmm.
it's a lot easier to not spoil things when you've watched one or two episodes and
Right.
you can specifically think of all you could say, oh, there was one cliffhanger, at the end of what we watched, but there's 10 episodes. So yeah, we don't want to spoil the massive amounts of cliffhangers, or we don't want to talk about things in too much detail to spoil it for you guys.
And they do keep the hook going throughout this season too. It
Mm.
didn't feel like there was a lot of reveal. Like, 3 episodes in, okay, this is revealed. 7 episodes in, okay, this is revealed, and then the big one at the end. Like they kept kind of kicking the can down the road a little bit in this season.
Yeah, yeah, and we'll talk once we get to should you watch. We'll really
Yeah.
lay out our opinions on that.
So, Binge and Ginge, what's your one thing?
My one thing is for me, I've always loved Lorna Crane. Don't get me wrong, but for me, more so than any other season, Lorna Crane is the one thing to watch for. She completely made the season for me. And that I have to give credit to the actress Becky Newton, who plays Lorna. And I think she really took up the performance a notch. And she came from comedy. She was from Ugly Betty. I think that's the only real thing I've seen her in before this. But she does comedy well, and she's done it well in all her little one-liners to date in this show. But she took on a little more drama this season, and I thought she did an amazing job. And I personally wish she would get nominated for something, because I think she's done a great job of bridging the gap between comedy and drama in that role. And I also have a little bit of a hot take associated with Lorna. So, my argument is that the ladies of the show, Lorna and Maggie, are the real MVPs of this season. And their performance and their characters this season, like, they're the epitome of true you go girl, like, feminism, right? They're like, to me, this is the show that woke writing staffs are trying to create, that feminism and that push for the female character. And it never comes off authentic, but this is the one show where people have been sleeping on it, because it's definitely very pro feminine, but it's not under the guise of this like woke thing where it to me it's as much girl power as you can get, but you're going to get it in the most anti-woke way you could ever dream of. So like I was just like silently cheering. I was like, yeah, go Lorna. Lorna's holding it all together and she's the real MVP. And yeah, I was like, this is what shows are trying to achieve, and they can never do it. But this is the show that's doing it, and they're doing it well. They're doing it successfully, and they're doing it in a way that's very neutral and not offensive to anybody, um not playing down some other people, like worrying about representation so much, like they're just doing it right, basically.
It's kind of a genuine character development. Like it doesn't
Yeah,
feel forced, and yeah, it's
exactly.
those situations where it, even the character may not feel relatable at first, but over the course of developing their storyline and their arc, they may become more relatable as thing goes along because you've watched them build up to what the end point is.
Yeah, and Lorna does everything with grace. She's still given her one-liners, but she's also become a little more realistic and a little more relatable in the fact that she's dealing with these real issues that I think some women deal with. especially if they have a high stakes job, like maybe they're a paralegal who works for a lawyer, maybe they are a lawyer, if they work out in the corporate world. So I think it's very relatable, and her arc is one of where she has to stretch herself a little bit as an actress, and I think she did it great, and the writing was great in that regard, because I always see a lot of comments that women say that Taylor Sheridan doesn't know how to write women, you know. And I don't know who the writer or the writers of this show are, but whoever they are, they're getting it right and they're doing it right. And there's not really a form or blueprint to go off of for doing it right, but whatever it is, they've hit upon it, and I loved it. I want more of that. Like, drown me
I'm
in that.
I'm interested to know which female characters Taylor Sheridan doesn't know how to write, because I feel like I pretty much enjoy all of them.
See, that's where I don't relate to other women, because I've seen them saying that the character of Beth is awful. She doesn't speak or act like a real woman does. I've heard people say that Angie on Landman is not a real woman. Taylor Sheridan doesn't know how to write women. He didn't know how to write Cammy and Landman. I don't agree with that, but I think this is a I don't want to use the word representation. This is a representation that people of feminism that
Mhm.
people can agree with, I think.
It's has a normal. This is like a female character that's comes off as a normal real life person.
Exactly. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's no eye rolls. There's no sighs,
yeah.
exasperated sighs. Like, I think it's something that anyone on any side of the aisle in politically, and it's weird because, like, why does feminism have to be political? And it shouldn't be, but I think this is a concept and something that anyone can enjoy and relate to.
My exposure to Becky Newton was also comedy based. She had a recurring role in How I Met Your Mother as
Oh
but
yeah.
I don't know if she was the featured flame of his Crazy Hot scale. That may have been where she came from, because I feel like either she was Barney's white whale or she was like the psycho girl that he couldn't get his mind off of, but the rest of the gang was trying to pull him away from her. Uh, but she had this she did have this recurring role. It may have been where the Crazy Hot scale came from, but I think that's what her character was.
I vaguely remember that now that you're talking about it. And I've never seen every episode by any means of How I Met Your Mother, but I feel like she might have been on at least one that I've seen. So that checks out. That was probably after Ugly Betty, I would say.
Oh, was Ugly Betty that old? I thought that was a newer than that. Or maybe it was about the
Oof.
same time. Because like Quinn came up definitely a few years into How I Met Your Mother. She wasn't right at the outset.
Oh, don't quote me, but I feel like Ugly Betty was maybe on for 4 or 5 seasons. Again, don't quote me. I remember watching it in like maybe 2007, 8.
Might have been
So
about the
it
same time then.
Okay, so maybe
Yeah,
she was doing both. But yeah, I
yeah.
probably only knew her from Ugly Betty. And she was sort of an abrasive character in Ugly Betty. She wasn't very likable. She was kind of a snobby little biatch.
Which is funny because that's not Lorna Crane, and you are
Eh,
the president of the Lorna Crane fan club.
oh, yeah, I love her.
So mine is the other major character of Lincoln Lawyer, and that is Mickey
Mm,
Haller. And to me, this season is a different Mickey Haller than where we're used to.
mm.
Usually, in the past season of Lincoln Lawyer, Mickey Haller, he walks in the courtroom, he's got this alpha swag about him. He's not afraid to kind of push these boundaries of what maybe kind of, okay, it's still technically in the legal parameter of things, but maybe it's a little moral and around the rough edge, sort of, so to speak. And this season we see Mickey in a much more vulnerable state where
Mm.
he doesn't always have a plan at every bump in the road that this case to prove his innocence takes. So to me, it kind of added a different layer of the acting quality of the character Mickey.
I definitely saw that too, and you can see a definite shift. And so the actor who plays Mickey is Manuel Garcia Rolfo, and yeah, the stakes are higher with Mickey this season. So his reputation takes a hit. You see him at a real low, like physically, mentally. You see him go through all these hard things. So obviously he had to kick up the acting performance a notch. And I mean, I always thought he did a great job with this role. I never felt like, oh, that guy, he's not convincing, or he's a terrible actor, or the dialogue is cheesy. Like, I never had any of those thoughts about his performance up to this point. But I thought that even more so, that he really pulled the performance off this season. He didn't phone anything in. It was all really, he had to show the lowest lows for this character, and he did a great job with that.
Yeah, and I've had feelings of I don't know whether it's the dialogue or just kind of some interactions because there's not like there's no familiar faces in this throughout this show,
Mm,
this series, but nothing that's like, oh, that's so and so, oh, that's so and so. It's just kind of like, okay, I recognize that person from X, Y, or Z, whatever the case may be.
yeah.
Um, so because of that, it kind of at times in the past, it's kind of felt like the quality has been a little bit more high B level.
Mhm.
Maybe not quite soap opera level, but like not always at a Taylor Sheridan type of atmosphere, that sort of thing. But this season, I feel like it kind of broke the mold of that too, and the portrayals had a more serious role to it. There was a significant less cheesiness.
Yeah, and to your point, I think the difference with this show is that, I mean, we're in season 4, and up until this point, we really haven't had like ginormous stars in it. And the
Yeah.
star of it, I don't even know what he came from. I don't know that I've seen anything in his filmography. I don't know if he's more of a common Latino star. I don't know if he's done stuff south of the border that maybe we don't know about, but yeah, so he's a virtual unknown, and a lot of the cast are. And if they're not virtual unknowns, it's like Becky Newton, who's had a bit part in, maybe a couple regular roles, but nothing like where they're the major character of anything. So it's a show of basically all virtual unknowns, and there's no huge star power. So, it's always like, oh, I might recognize that person from that one thing. Or for me, there were a couple people where I was like, I've definitely seen that person in something, and I cannot figure what it was. So it just familiar faces for sure, but no one of note that you would know their name.
And I think that's also where the chemistry can work in the show's favor because
Mm,
none of the actors feel like they're living in the shadow of someone whose reputation is, well precedes them.
mm,
And that I think maybe that's the underlying factor of why this season felt a little different than the past ones because of Mickey's situation stresses his relationships with everyone else. Lorna is trying to keep the practice afloat, grabbing whatever case she can to keep the lights on. Um, and you see the stress of the situation impose anxiety on Mickey's daughter Haley.
mm.
Maggie, who's kind of been very estranged in the past from Mickey, kind of has a more featured role in this season. So there's a lot of connections amongst the characters that is very much effective and intertwined with Mickey's trials. No pun
Yeah, it's
intended.
just, yeah, it's everyone's kind of going to bat for Mickey, and trying to get him out of this mess. So it's like all hands on deck to try to get this thing done and done right. And yeah, so it's seeing, because Mickey's at his lows, everyone else is kind of at their lows, like trying to pick up the slack for him. So I think, yeah, the stakes are higher, and that's why just things are, the actors have to stretch themselves, but also the characters have to stretch themselves too. And I thought that there was a lot of that, and especially with Mickey, the actor who plays him, but just with everyone else in that ensemble cast.
Yeah. And then like to bring that to kind of I guess tie our two things together is, as far as, note to the woke writers, this is how you build up feminism and have it genuine.
Yeah.
But, we also feature, Izzy winds up developing a romantic situation in this. And that's another thing where that doesn't feel forced anyway. A lot lately in Hollywood, an LGBT presence on the screen feels very forced and
Mm-hmm.
disingenuous. But this situation with Izzy and Grace also did not feel disingenuous either. Actually, just felt like it was an intended storyline, not three seasons into a show we're gonna flip the sexual preference of a character.
Yeah, I have, when we get to the should you watch, I have a little bit of a hot take on that as well, which I
Mm.
think you might, you'll probably agree with me, but you might find it surprising that I'm saying this, but we'll get to that in a second.
Yes, and that second is of course now binge and ginge. Should people watch? I mean, it's 4 seasons in. You'd figure
Yeah.
everyone would be in already, but does the train keep rolling with the Lincoln Lawyer? Should they continue?
Oh yeah, I think people should definitely watch it. And I get your point. It's 4 seasons in, like of course people are going to continue with it, but not necessarily, because in the back of my mind I was thinking, okay, how are they going to keep this going? How are they going to keep it interesting? The first 3 to 4 episodes for me were sort of getting the story set up, and I wouldn't say I was bored or anything, but I was pretty seriously hooked episode 5 through 10. Just at the end of every episode,
Hmm.
I was like, I need to watch another based on how that ended. Okay, I need to watch another. Like I was just clicking forward and watching all of them. But the thing that I want to say about this show that keeps me coming back to it and gives it a consistent reputation in my mind is the fact that the ensemble cast. So, I'm of course that includes Mickey, but also that includes Lorna, Cisco, Izzy, everyone who works in his office. The ensemble cast is really like they function like a real family, and it's not that false work thing of like we're a family here,
Yeah.
that you just kind
Or
of
or Vin Diesel family. The Vin Diesel meme.
but that being said, the fact that the ensemble cast is like a family, and not one of them annoys me, not even 1%, and that's super super rare. We've discussed that with shows. Lioness I famously dislike because Zoe Saldana annoys me to no end, but in this show there is no character that annoys me even a little bit. And you mentioned that, Izzy is a lesbian. It's known that she's a lesbian. And there's a new character associated with her that honestly does not bother me at all. And I never thought I would say that. But again, this show is the example of what others should follow because they're doing it right. They're doing it right with gay characters. They're doing it right with feminism. So take a page out of their playbook and write how they're writing. And again, I think that Lincoln Lawyer is based on a book, and I don't know if it's a series of books. I think is it Michael Connolly who's the writer?
Yeah. Yeah,
So I
yeah.
always see that on the screen, like with every episode, created by or based on, books by Michael Connolly. And I don't know how closely the characters follow the book. Like, is Izzy in the book and is she gay? I don't know. But whether they've chosen to make that choice aside from the books, they've done it in a way where it's not shoved down your throat, it's not annoying, and it's actually like surprise, I with my cold heart where I'm like skeptical of all the LGBTQ storylines, I was like smiling a little bit with this new
Yeah.
character. And like I was like, this seems genuine to me. It seems like yes, these are actresses, but it seems like they are genuinely like in like with each other. And like it's nice to see. And it's nice to see, you know, their friends reacting to their relationship. Like it was overall a pleasure, and I can never say that about anything. So the fact that I'm saying it about this show, that just speaks volumes and volumes.
That's
With my hand
hilarious.
gestures, you can tell like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
it's huge.
Huge. Um,
Huge.
and that the other side of that is like to your point about being based on something, there is no copycat feel to this because it's based off the book. You think normally when things are
Mhm.
based off the book, you have all the literary fans of it coming out and be like, oh, well, that's inaccurate, that's inaccurate. I haven't heard any of that. Now, I don't necessarily live
Yeah.
down all the interwebs, but I don't necessarily catch any of that. And also, The Lincoln Lawyer was famously a motion picture with Matthew McConaughey, and
Yes.
this does not feel like it's just a TV series form of that. Like it feels like they took their inspiration from the same thing, I assume,
Mhm.
and went their own way with it. Like the film with Matthew McConaughey is like a completely different track from where this show goes with the story.
It's a different entity. And I was thinking about it because again, we're in the fourth season and this show has been consistent as hell these past four seasons. And
Hmm.
so I'm wondering how they're going to up the ante. Up to the finale, I was like, okay, what's going to happen, that's going to drive the story forward. And I was pleasantly surprised. But I was thinking for a second about the Matthew McConaughey movie because I went to the theater to see it and I loved that movie. I thought it was great. And I remember when this show came out on Netflix 4 or 5 years ago, I think it was during COVID 2020. I was kind of like, oh, this guy has like a accent. I was like, this guy is like Mexican or something. I was like, Matthew McConaughey was not Mexican, like his
Yeah,
character. When I was like, how is this the same thing? Like it's called Lincoln Lawyer, and he like works out of his car. It's the same thing, right? And I was kind of put off, to be honest, by the fact that this was so different than the Matthew McConaughey thing. And no, I mean, I can very well eat my words, 5 years later, just because this has become something that I really enjoy, and it's so incredibly consistent.
yeah. And the cliffhanger, of course, tied back to a more personal level to look forward to next season
Yeah,
in Mickey's Tale.
yeah.
Well, if you think we are consistent as hell, please follow us. Make sure you drop us a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to follow or subscribe because we are at the mercy of the show's release. I think we've done a pretty good job staying consistent with releases, but hey, you never know. We don't know when these shows get dropped a lot of times.
Consistent as
Next up,
hell.
yeah, yeah.
Raise the roof.
Next up, this our next review itches a fix of both of ours in a sense. You get your kind of proper English period piece drama, and I get my medical intensity. Season 2 of The Artful Dodger. For those of us stateside, it'll be on Hulu. For those of our Aussie listeners and those around the globe, I guess it'll be on Disney Plus. So this one's a nice little mix for both of us.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. This is like one of those sleeper shows that I think more people should be watching. And if you watch the first season, then you're eagerly awaiting for that second season. But if you haven't heard of it, you should start watching it.
Yeah, indeed. If you haven't heard of us, start watching us too. Until the next real review, Red and Red signing out.